I'm Sam Otten, and with me is Jason Book, and we're going to be talking in this video about Batman v Superman, latest news now that they've wrapped filming, rumors. There's going to be some spoilers, or at least potential spoilers, because none of this is confirmed, but you might hear more than you want to in this video. So let's start with something that's been now around for several weeks, but it's the idea that there's going to be a Robin in Batman v Superman, which might make sense because Batman's been around for a while, so there would probably be a Robin at some point. But the rumor is it's going to be a female Robin, and the rumored actress is Jenna Malone. So, what do you think about female Robin or Robin at all, Jason? And what do you think about Jenna Malone possibly playing the role?
Well, I like the idea of a female Robin because we haven't seen that in a movie before, but I think that because it's supposed to be like the first time that Batman and Superman are meeting and all this kind of stuff, there's enough there already. We don't really need a Robin in the film. Um, maybe Robin will kind of come in and save the day and save Batman at some point, and that's kind of how it's written into the story because they are pulling a lot from Dark Knight Returns, and
Hmm.
if it is the character of Carrie Kelly, well, she kind of nurses Batman back to health after he's had like a major thing happen to him. So if they can make it work in that respect, I'll buy it, but it's really a fine line to me if how it's going to work in this film.
Yeah, and I kind of hope for the film that she's not a new kid that kind of gets newly taken under Batman's wing. I would kind of hope that she's more like maybe somebody that has a history with Batman, who then, like you said, maybe isn't planning to come back, but she does because Batman needs her, something like
Mm.
that.
Yeah, that would be
Um,
cool.
I think that would be better because I think with the movie, they're going to want to try to use the fact that Batman has a history as Batman. So if you're going to have Batman, he's like been around for, more than a decade, and Superman's new on the scene, then I think you shouldn't just introduce somebody new into Batman's life. You should use somebody that's from Batman's past life to kind of have it make more sense in the universe, I think.
Yeah, that would sound pretty good, I think, to me as well.
And I'm like you. I'm all right with the female Robin. I think it'll be new. It'll be interesting. I'm also always kind of in favor of diversifying comic book movies, and so I think this is a way for another female role to kind of play. Have a strong female in there.
Hmm. It does make me wonder though, like there's already so many characters in this movie. Like when will it end?
Mhm.
I hope there's not going to be too much going on, as we've said before.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they keep the focus on Superman first, Batman as kind of a nice complement to Superman. And we've talked in a previous video about how I think Batman can be used well to actually play up Superman because Batman can be skeptical of Superman and can investigate him. I think it'll be fun
Hmm.
to see like Batman discovering Clark Kent's identity, that kind of stuff
Yeah,
through his
yeah.
detective work. I think Robin can fit in because she can be part of Batman's backstory and kind of reveal Batman's character. So I think Robin fits okay. What I'm more worried about is the Justice League characters getting too much screen time or playing too big of a role. Because I'm kind of hoping the Justice League characters kind of are just in the margins until Justice League Part 1.
Yeah, I know. Like that's what worries me too. Like I'm hoping a lot of them are kind of near the end of the film and maybe they need to band together for some reason and that's when they start pulling different characters. But I mean, we don't even know how Wonder Woman fits in with all this yet too. So,
Yeah, I think that's a big
like
question.
really that should be the third act of the movie, never mind the first two dealing with Batman and
Hmm.
Superman. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it's really going to be interesting and I hope they haven't bitten off more than they can chew with all these characters.
right. To me, Wonder Woman is a big question mark.
Yep.
So on BatmanNews.com, Batman-News.com, there was a story about the visual effects company that did Krypton in Man of Steel,
Mhm.
which I thought looked
Cool.
really good.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too.
they're they're working on Batman v Superman, and a person from that company said they have a standalone scene that they're kind of the lead company on.
Okay.
And so there's this speculation about what scene would that be that's kind of a standalone scene that's very like visual effectsy. My
Hmm.
first thought, and other people have said this too, is that it might be Themyscira with Wonder Woman, like that New Mexico set, they might kind of enhance it with all the digital effects and stuff.
Okay.
So it just leads me to wonder again, okay, Wonder Woman, how big of a role is she going to have? How much screen time is that going to take up from Batman v Superman? Because they got a lot of terrain to cover.
Yeah, totally. Like for me, it's all about the tone too. Like, is she gonna come in there and kind of split these two guys up and make them realize they need to work together? Because that would be cool if they use her in that way. Or is she
Hmm.
just gonna go in the mix so they can have all of a sudden like a three-way fight instead of a
Hmm.
two-way fight, or end up more on Superman's side, or maybe
Hmm.
more on Batman's side as a twist? I mean, it's interesting to me, but it's all about the execution, and I hope they can
Hmm.
really nail this.
Yeah. So We got questions about Wonder Woman. Another thing, you mentioned that you heard about a trailer coming now. Like the little boy in me was actually hoping to see a Batman v Superman trailer for The Hobbit,
Yeah,
which
I
didn't
thought that
come.
too. Yeah.
I kind of knew it was a little bit wishful thinking to be that far ahead of time.
Hmm.
But you said you now heard that there might be a trailer coming for Mad Max. So what do you have for us on that?
Yeah, in May of 2015, when Mad Max finally comes out, which has been, in the making for a while, and I
Hmm.
guess it's been completed now. So it looks pretty good. I'm
Hmm.
a fan of the original, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. And the trailer is supposed to be attached to there, so who knows if it's going to be the teaser or a longer trailer just to start. But I think they realize that people are really wanting to see some of this, so I'm hoping we at least get a minute 30 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm excited about that now. I did see a trailer for Mad Max, which I think looks really good. It has a really
Yeah.
cool a color palette and a really cool visual style, it seems like. But
Hmm.
I'll go see that movie just to see the Batman v Superman trailer, so I do
Well,
hope it's
exactly,
there.
right?
So another thing that I wanted to talk to you about was I've heard a rumor that's kind of, semi-confirmed. It's not confirmed, but I think it's a rumor that actually has some legitimacy that Doomsday is in the movie. There was some concept art of Doomsday presented at a Comic-Con earlier, but at the time people said like, well, it was just concept art to get in the universe. It wasn't necessarily for the movie, but now it's actually sounding like there's a good chance Doomsday is actually in this movie. So,
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on Doomsday? I think there's a lot of stuff that comes to mind with that.
Well, I mean, if Doomsday's in the movie, I really hope they're not also going to kill off Superman in this movie because, as we said before, there's already a lot going on in here, and I'd almost like to see that happen, like in a trilogy story of the Superman movies or something between part two and three. It kind of is perfect, really, for him dying and coming back, and so we'll see
Hmm.
what happens. But I mean, I don't know if they can pull this off with everything else going on. Part of me thinks that why wouldn't they do Doomsday in the Justice League movie for a reason for them to band together to fight this thing that nobody can stop, like, or
Hmm.
maybe they're going to go the alien invasion route. I don't know, but I really think they could pull off Doomsday really quite well with the way CG is and everything now. But I just have to kind of question the timing.
Yeah. So, just like you, as soon as I think of Doomsday, I think of Superman dying. Because why would you really bring in Doomsday unless it was going to be something related to a Superman death type story? But then I'm like, well, yeah, why are you killing off Superman in basically the first movie where he is Superman? Because in Man of Steel,
Yeah, that's it.
Man of Steel, he's becoming Superman, and
That's
now
it.
in Batman v Superman is the first time we actually have him as Superman. And there was some leaked stuff about the script by Chris Terrio that confirms that it really is going to kind of set up the traditional Superman of him doing heroic things and him getting, the public more on his side. And
Hmm.
he has the Lois Lane relationship. There was a rumor that they're living together, Clark and
Oh,
Lois. So I
cool.
think we'll get more of that traditional kind of Clark Lois relationship stuff at the Daily Planet and more Superman type action, like Superman type deeds. But then to me, it's like way too early then to kill him off because you haven't had that long relationship with him, or the world hasn't, at least in the movie.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. And also let's think story wise. Like what's gonna bring Doomsday into the story? Is Lex Luthor
mhm.
doing
I gotta think,
something,
yeah. I mean,
like
hopefully it's Lex Luthor related because otherwise you just have all these different pieces. So, like, for a tight
yeah.
story, I think it has to be Lex Luthor riling up humanity against Superman, and then Lex Luthor creating Doomsday, like maybe from some Kryptonian DNA that was left over from Man of Steel, or like maybe with some Zod DNA or something like that.
Yeah, that
And
would be
then,
cool if they do that. I mean, if it's Lex doing space exploration for money and accidentally this thing comes here, I mean, I don't know, it could be a little far fetched.
right. I mean, I hope there's a strong link between Lex and Doomsday because otherwise you have just, yeah, different kind of plot points that seems like they aren't going to tie together that well.
Hmm.
Um, so hopefully it's still Lex driven. I mean, we talked earlier about how I think there's already a lot for a movie just with Lex as your villain, and then the tensions with humanity and Superman having to win over humanity, and Lex trying to manipulate humanity against Superman. And Batman, I think, fits in because Batman can be, this skeptical detective, who ends up siding with Superman at the end of the day.
Hmm.
But I can also see them saying, like, okay, we have Lex Luthor doing all that manipulation, but we also need some big fight scenes that warrant like a Superman and a Batman and maybe a Wonder Woman. So maybe
Hmm.
they just said, well, we need to bring in some big baddie, and they just picked Doomsday. And again, this is Warner Brothers doing it, not DC. Like, DC does not have the control over it in the way that Marvel has control over their movies.
That's true.
So it could be Warner Brothers that doesn't really understand all the implications of Doomsday that said, we want Doomsday in the movie, make it work. I don't know.
Yeah, like they really need to just tread lightly with some of this stuff. Like, if you just go through all the characters that are in this movie now and potential villains, and then the villains that are already in there, we know for sure there's a lot going on. I'm of the belief that in these movies, because there's so much going on already, less is more sometimes, and it
Yeah.
definitely doesn't seem to be the kind of theme for this one. So I'm hoping, I don't know, that maybe some of these things that we've talked about so much are just small parts in a bigger movie.
Hopefully it just ends up being like, if there's Doomsday, there's just the idea of Doomsday, and it is saved for Justice League or something. I don't know.
Yeah, be
I'm
much
just
better.
Yeah, and I am worried though that Doomsday means death of Superman, and now I'm worried that the extra who spilled the beans about the funeral for the president, I'm now worried that that's actually a funeral for Superman, and that the studio just lied to the extras and said like, oh yeah, it's the president going by, he's dead, act all sad, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But that it was really, once it's actually put together, it'll be Superman's funeral.
Hmm.
So, and now there was maybe like the rumored statue of Superman. So now I'm like,
Right.
oh man, it's kind of like a lot of signs are pointing to a possible death of Superman, and then I'm just worried because it seems too early to kill him
And,
off.
right. And then what are they going to do? Bring him back in Justice League Part 1? Like, it's just, it wouldn't work to me. Like, if they were going to kill off Superman, the best way to do it would be like the way you have your dark, part in Part 2, like Empire Strikes Back, then Return of the Jedi. It's like, that's
Hmm.
the way to do it. To
Yeah.
kill him off in a Batman versus Superman movie, and then what movie is he coming back in? I mean, the
Yeah.
only cool thing if Superman died would be that if it made the Justice League come together, that would be really interesting because that's kind of a
Hmm.
different take on what we've always
Yeah.
seen, why the Justice League came together. It was always like alien invasion or whatnot. It would be really interesting, but once again, I think there's way too much already in this movie for that to happen.
Hmm. Well, if you're interested in the new 52 take on Doomsday, you can check out Superman Doomed, which was the big Superman event from 2014. I enjoyed it. I have a review of Superman Doomed,
Nice.
a different take on Doomsday. So I wonder, if that will give any insights. But all right, thanks a lot for talking through this with me, Jason. Some concerns, but I think definitely both still excited to see how it's all going to work out. And hopefully we see a trailer coming up in a few months.
Yeah, looking forward to it.